Hello everyone, and welcome to the first video on the channel of a kind of card review, and in this case it's with my, childhood friend for many years, the great T-Rex. I guess if you want to say hi, go ahead.
Why, hello viewers.
He used to play some Magic, right? Like, not a lot, it sounds like, but at least, like, some.
Yeah, enough to grasp concept.
Yeah, and so Rex here has reviewed my how to play video on the channel. I'll have the link in the description if you want to watch it. And he's at least like kind of watched the video and got an idea of the basic rules of the game. And so what I figured would be a fun new concept for the channel would be a video where he reviews cards and he determines if they are banned/limited or not. And I guess for the sake of you, Rex, there are banned cards in the list. I'm not going to do this weird like juke where I show you like 10 cards and none of them are banned, right? Like that'd be just kind of stupid. So
yeah, that's
but the quantity, I won't say what the quantity of them are. I will, for the sake of kind of easing you into it, I'll show you the first, I'll show you one of each of the kinds of cards there are in the game, and then give you like an actual, like, is this banned/limited or not after I show you the card. And if you want to like hop back to the previous card to kind of like, compare apples to oranges, just let me know. I'm going to be sharing the screen here in a second. So here we go. So let me see if I can, there we go. So the first card, and this was in the video, but just as a friendly reminder, this is Fighter. He's like a vanilla, 2 costs in the upper left, 2 attack, 3 defense. Nothing special, just, you got the text box. Wish he has no effects, but if he did, it would be right below, or right above his name, but below the art. All the creatures in this game are called followers. They're not called monsters or anything out of the ordinary like that. The mercenary is his attribute or trait, and then his rarity is in this case he's a bronze. He's like the equivalent of a common. So that's kind of the gist of the cards. They're nothing like super crazy. So are you all set with this? Like, any questions or anything? Is this pretty straightforward, I'd imagine?
Nope, that is pretty straightforward.
Okay. So actually, and what I'm gonna do is here is kind of like zoom. There we go. Make it a little bit bigger for you, just to see the card a little bit easier. Go ahead and read this card, and let me know what you think of them.
This is Demonium.
Demonium.
Yep. Demonium Punk Devil.
Yeah.
Its ward is gives your leader -2. Gives the follower Bane. This ability can be activated once per turn, and then you give your leader +2 defense.
Yeah, so just a little bit of context, just to rehash for you, but he costs 2 to play, with 2 attack and 3 defense. Ward is basically a skill that says either when you play him onto the field or when you, at the end of your turn, you can turn to you can choose to tap him, and if you tap him, that means basically the ward activates, which means he has taunt. Basically, your opponent has to attack him before he attacks you. Like, you can have followers on the board, but if nothing has ward, your opponent could attack you directly with their followers. It's not like, I'm not sure how much like you've played Yu-Gi-Oh, but like in Yu-Gi-Oh, you know how you have to kill all the monsters on the field first before you can even attack your opponent?
Yep.
That's not the case in this game. Unless something says, you have to, essentially it has ward, like you can just attack your opponent if you want.
All right. So my thoughts on this would be that it's just like a standard normal card that you could use during play. The reason why I feel that is the fact that the ability doesn't seem that it pertains to any other card or any other ability that you may have, to where it would become overpowered. So this seems pretty run of the mill to me.
Okay, and just to make sure you understand how his effects work, other than the ward, since I already explained that. Yeah. But the green diamond means you can activate the ability during your main phase. And it says give your leader -2 defense. So you like in Magic, you start with 20 life.
Yeah.
So you can pay 2 life, or in this case they call it defense, but you pay 2 life to give himself Bane. And Bane is like Death Touch in Magic, where if he attacks something or if something attacks him, it'll die like after the fight.
Okay.
The the obvious like overpowered exception would be like if he attacks the opponent directly, right? Like it's not going to auto kill him, right? And then the purple L means last words, which means when he goes from the field to the cemetery, you heal 2. Okay. So I don't know if giving that a little bit of extra detail or anything gives you a better context of him or anything, or if it's still the same, like you're still the same thoughts, like that's totally fine.
I would say based off of that context, I would be leaning more actually towards the limited side of things. Okay.
I'm going to give you another card as like an example, and I'm just curious if it sways your opinion one way or the other, okay?
Okay.
So go ahead and read this card.
All right. So Kiss of Lust gives your leader +2 defense, draw a card. If Sanguine is active for you, draw 2 instead.
Yep. And it costs 2 to play. Right, in the upper left. One thing I do want to mention here, I don't know if you remember from the video, but Sanguine basically means during your turn when your life gets subtracted, whether you take damage or you pay life. Sanguine is essentially like on. It just like flips on. So in the case of circling back over to the Punk Devil for a second, he costs 2 life to give himself Bane. You know, you're subtracting. So like let's say you're at 20 life, you pay 2, you're down to 18, now he has Bane. So when you do that, the Sanguine keyword activates. So like if you play Kiss of Lust, after you pay 2 for Punk Devil, you would heal 2 back, and then you essentially get to draw 2 because you draw a card, and then Sanguine is active for you, so you draw another. In this case, it says draw 2 instead. Same difference.
I would say that in my experience from playing other card games, that this would it doesn't change my thought that it may in a tournament setting it may still be limited, just due to the fact that if, say, for example, that you had these 2 cards in your deck and multiples of them, you're at that point, giving yourself +2 defense, giving yourself +4 defense at the end of a turn, and then you potentially could repeat it again a couple of times, thus giving you a little higher advantage in the defense portion against your opponent. So you're saying, and not that it matters for this game, but you're thinking just limited but not banned. Either way, like if you're correct, you're correct. Yes, limited, not banned.
Okay, you're wrong.
Okay. Is it banned or is it normal play?
It's normal play. It's totally fine to do this. The reason I would say is, so like for context, this card came out in set 3, in the third set of the game. You can kind of see, if I zoom in here a little bit, you can kind of see like BPO 3 here.
Yep.
So it's like booster pack 3. Punk Devil is kind of like the first good generic, and you were kind of correct in the sense of like it was kind of very generic, but like it was the first kind of like generic card that was a good 2 cost for Abysscraft, which is the color essentially. Early game, you would just kind of play it. You wouldn't even like give it Bane because a 2 cost 2/3 was just like solid stats, where whatever it fights early game is just probably going to die anyways, just because the stats are right about even. But then late game, the Bane was nice because you could have your opponent could have big followers, and then they'd either have to like hit this and sacrifice their big follower just to kill this little dude. But the problem, I guess, now as the game's progressed is it's kind of gotten faster, where even cards like Kiss of Lust, it starts to get slow because he's good to play turn 2, and Kiss of Lust is good, but as like a turn 2 playing Punk Devil and then coming around to turn 3 where you have 3 play points with Kiss of Lust, you're not kind of like presenting any more of like a threatening board. And so if your opponent also has things already on board, you're kind of fiddling with your own cards essentially. Like, you're paying 2 to give this thing Bane. Okay, that's cool. It's not like progressing the board at all, right?
Yeah.
And cool, Kiss of Lust, you heal 2 and draw 2 if you have Sanguine active, but like that's not really doing anything to try to kill your opponent. Like, it's nice if your opponent's not like being like threatening, but like as the game's progressed, the game's gotten like quicker, not to an insane degree. Like, it's not like the game's over within like 2 turns or anything. This is just kind of like a normal standard like kind of play that's nothing like super crazy.
Okay.
Because you gotta keep in mind with this game too is you can like draw all the cards in the world you want, but if you don't have the play points to play them, then it's like, what's the point of having them, right? So you gotta kind of have this like nice middle ground between like having some draw, but also still like dealing with threats and trying to kill your opponent.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a little different from the aspect of what that I was thinking coming from a Magic style play where something like this, something like these 2 cards in particular, would in turn kind of buff you a little too much. Hence why I thought the limited status.
Right. No, that's fair. And usually, like, for context of like most cards, and I'm sure you'll see as you kind of like see more cards, usually the decent stats for cards are kind of like whatever the cost is, and then like is equal to its attack and defense. So like in this case, this is pretty like average statted, where it's like a 2 cost 2 3, like the 2 attack is close to 2 and the 3 is close to 2. So like you got to kind of think like, even if you do Kiss of Lust on turn 2, if your opponent already played a 2 cost card on turn 2 and it comes back around to their turn, they're just going to swing with the follower they already have that's 2 attack, and like, you're already going to lose like the 2 life.
That's fair.
Let's go to the next card. This one, okay, so this one I already showed Rex earlier, just as I was trying to give him kind of like a quick refresh before the video even recorded. But just go ahead and read Sacred Plea for a second and just kind of just mentally think about it for a second.
Yeah. So Sacred Plea, the green diamonds are instants. Put this card into...
It's more like an axe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put this card into its owner's cemetery. Draw a card. Spend 2 points. Put this card into its owner's cemetery. Draw 2 cards.
Yeah, so an amulet, you remember back from like Magic days, it's they're very similar to enchantments and equipments, where you play them onto the field and then they kind of don't do anything unless like, well, I think enchantments usually tend to have like some lingering, effect, but maybe equipments is a little bit of a better analogy, where they just kind of sit there unless you like pay more to do something with them.
Yes. Yep.
And some amulets act more like equipments, and some amulets act more like enchantments. So it's a little varied, but basically they sit on the board and they don't, I'm trying to think, they take up one of the slots on your field. So like you have up to 5 either followers or amulets on your field.
Yeah.
So unlike Magic in that regards, where like there's essentially unlimited spots, like you have to work with 5 and you can't call over your own cards, like, oh, I want to get rid of this card to just play another card. It is like, if you don't basically play well, you could potentially board lock yourself, Yeah. In the case of Sacred Plea here, it costs 1 to play. You can either just activate and put it to the cemetery to draw a card, or if you want to pay 2 play points, you can draw 2 instead and sacrifice it. So, all right, so let's get over to the next card here. Go ahead and read this card.
Okay. Gingerbread House. Stack, give your leader +3.
Yeah.
What is stack?
So stack is
that's literally you literally can, if you have multiple of these in your hand, you can stack them.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say that's a loaded question. It's more like a stacked question, but ignoring the pun for a second. Essentially there are amulets that can, and in the amulets that have the stack keyword are only in Runecraft. Runecraft is like this like blue border, right?
Yep.
And it's denoted by basically like the little like it's not a hexagon, but like the what is it, like an 8-sided star in the upper left, the blue, it's, you know, behind the cost of 1.
Yeah.
Stack, essentially, if you have multiple cards on the field that have stack, you can, every card with stack has like a stack counter of 1.
Yep.
And you can basically say, okay, I'm going to move the stack on this one stack amulet onto this other stack amulet, and basically we use like dice on top of the card to just indicate like how many stacks a card has.
Okay.
And so there are cards like this. Go ahead and read this card. Again, this is more of like for context, so go ahead and give this card a read.
Beast-faced mage.
Yep.
So it's Earthright. Select an enemy follower on the field and deal it 2 damage. Summon a magic sediment token.
Yep. So the L, well, just real quick, the L last words, the magic sediment tokens are essentially like just, well, it actually kind of tells you at the bottom, it says magic sediment, amulet, earth sigil, stack. It's just literally like an amulet that just has the stack keyword. So you can just like basically move it over to a different stacked card. But the main point of Beast-Faced Mage that I wanted to point out was the act ability, where it says like act, tap it, Earthright. The Earthright means basically pay 1 stack off of a stack amulet to do the rest of the ability. So basically you tap it, you basically just reduce the stack on a card down 1, and then you select an enemy follow on the field and deal 2 damage. So it's like an additional cost for doing the ability. So like in this case, let's say for example, it's turn 2, right? And you got 2 play points. If you play Gingerbread House, on the F means fanfare. So basically when you play it, you heal 3. Right?
Yep.
And then if you decide to pay 1 play point to play Beast-Faced Mage, you can, with Beast-Faced Mage, tap it sideways, Earthright, which means basically subtract 1 stack off of the Gingerbread House, which when it hits 0, it just kills the card and it goes to the cemetery. And then you select enemy follow on the field and deal it 2 damage. That's kind of just the little bit of interaction / explanation of what stack is. But ultimately, the card we're looking at is Gingerbread House, if you think this is banned / limited or not at all.
I would say, going back to my previous thought process on the card before, the fact that that Gingerbread House can be stacked, my reasoning for it is limited. Just due to the fact that it can be stacked and it can be used in a form that is a little bit overpowered if you have the right cards on the playfield.
Okay. So what I find funny is, so your answer is correct in that it's limited, but your logic and reasoning to how you got there was incorrect, which I'll still give you the point. So like, as long as the answer is correct, that's all I care about, whether I give you a point or not. But stack is a pretty common keyword. There's a good amount of cards that have the stack keyword, and so it's nothing like out of the ordinary on its own. The whole archetype is called usually it's called Dirt Rune, because basically has to do, the reason is like the magic, on the Beast-Faced Mage, the magic sediment like is like dirt. If you saw the art of the card, it's just basically kind of like floating dirt. The archetype is usually called Dirt Rune in the community, but the the reason why this card is limited is honestly because of the heal 3. It's not like, it seems innocuous, right? Like it's just like, oh, heal 3, like what's the big deal, right?
Yeah.
But for only 1 play point and having no like upper requirement, I mean, you can literally, like, if you think about it, if you kind of get like a crazy starting hand, you can essentially start with 29 life. Like if you go turn 1, Gingerbread House, turn 2, Gingerbread House, and it's just like, okay, you're already up to 29 versus, your own 20. It's just kind of like this. I remember seeing a like competitive video when someone was playing Dirt Rune. And they were at like, I want to say 9, it was something like 9 life. And the opponent just played like 2 of these in a row, like in the mid game. And you could just see the other player that was not playing Dirt Rune, like just the look of like defeat in his face of just like, oh my God, he has 6 more life I have to deal with. Like, it was just like, creates this really annoying environment where essentially you can just go, okay, this person is essentially living with 29 starts with the game with 29 life. And it just the archetype Dirt Rune at this time was so strong that they cut it down to 1, just to try to trim how much like extra survival that Dirt Rune had. If you ask me now, I think it could probably come off the ban list, or ban/limited list. It's kind of a contentious card. Some people like really want it off. Some people are like, nah, just leave it rotting in the limited list. But yeah, it's limited at least for now.
Yeah, I mean, my way of thinking was actually, after you explained why, was my way of thinking was correct. My way of explaining what I was thinking was probably not quite there.
Yeah.
So
no, it's all good. Yeah, this is one card that like I thought it would honestly trip you up. I thought you would say like, oh no, this looks pretty harmless, like it's fine, but it's funny that you he still came to the right answer. All right, on to the next card. So this is the last like example, right? This is going to be an example of a spell. Unlike Magic, where like everything is a spell other than lands, in this game, spells are spells, amulets are amulets, and followers are followers. Like it's nothing where like followers are counted as spells or amulets count as spells and that kind of stuff. If it's a spell, it'll say spell in the bottom left there. Go ahead and starting with the cost in the upper left, go ahead and start reading Surefire Bullet.
So 2 play points.
Yep.
Quick, select an enemy follower on the field and deal it 3 damage. If it's an evolved follower, deal 4 damage instead.
Yep. We'll go to the next card that he'll actually like evaluate. Ready?
Yep.
Okay.
So Death's Breath.
Yep.
Is 6 play points. Select a follower that costs 8 or less in your cemetery. Summon it and give it ward.
Yep. And just a reminder, the ward means like when you play it, you could turn it sideways, or at the end of the turn, you could choose to turn it sideways. And also, just so you know, like when a follower attacks, it also gets turned sideways, and in that case, ward still activates. So no matter the method of how the card turns sideways, like ward is active on the card.
Okay. So based off of a few things, one, seems a very expensive card to play.
Yeah,
2,
at 6, yeah.
The power on it seems quite high.
In what regards do you mean by that?
It seems like a very powerful spell to play.
Oh, okay.
That I would say that is probably on the banned list.
Okay.
Reasoning behind that is you're just selecting any follower that costs 8 or less, and you're summoning it, and you're putting it back into play. Which, if it was a little bit more granular as to what you could pick, like a follower it's just a follower that costs 8 or less. So that follow, it doesn't give you other contingencies. So therefore, if in my way of thinking, if your opponent has chewed away and finally you've got that card that has been chipping away at their points, finally takes it off the board, you can immediately, and you have this card in your hand, you can immediately bring that same card back out, causing your opponent to die a little inside, basically. So that's my reasoning why I think it's on the banned list.
I don't know if you've been saying it, but I don't know if you've really like internalized it. Have you noticed that despite it costing 6, you can get 8 play points worth of value?
Yes.
Okay.
I was like, that is quite a thing.
Okay. I'll show you a card, and it hasn't evolved, so I'll show you the card in its evolved form. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are and if it sways your opinion at all, okay?
Okay.
Go ahead and read this card.
All right. Israfil, 8 play points. Spend 1, evolve this follower.
Yeah, which we'll get to in just a second, but go ahead and finish the rest of it.
Give your leader +4.
Yep.
Strike.
And that's on summon.
Yep. Strike, deal 3 damage to each enemy follower on the field.
Yep. And I'll show you the evolve form.
All right. Deal 5 damage to each enemy follower on the field.
Yeah. So when you evolve it, instead of it dealing 3 damage to each enemy follower, it deals 5 now instead.
Okay. No, that doesn't sway my opinion. I think it reinforces my opinion on the fact that initial card is on the banned list. Because I know if I was playing against you and I finally got rid of that darn card, that and then you were just like, nope, sorry, it's back on the field and it's evolved. Yay! I'd probably get up and leave.
Well, and keep in mind too, because of Death's Breath, she would also get Ward. So like she could be a 10-10 with Ward that you have to like punch through before you can even hit me. Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so your final answer is do you think it's banned or limited?
I think it is banned.
Okay, it is perfectly fine. It is not banned or limited at all.
I would be in the camp of the people that think that it probably should be banned.
So, I guess that's why I chose this card, because like from the outside, like the fact that Death's Breath just says get something that costs 2 more for like the cost of 6. Seems really good, and it was basically like kind of like one of the core strategies of control decks early on in the game, especially because the decks that ran this, you could get Israfil into the cemetery quicker, so you didn't even have to play Israfil first. You could get her into the cemetery and then just summon her back with Death's Breath. But usually by the time it gets to, usually on average, by the time it gets to like turn 6 or 7, that starts to be like the like late game part of the game where it's like, okay, like we need to start wrapping things up, like someone needs to start dying here soon, right? So because unlike I think some extreme where it's like Gingerbread House, there's kind of like a scaling with the turns. I would say especially now on average games tend to last probably about 7 to 8 turns, so like both people have like usually like 7 to 8 play points right before someone dies. This is just kind of like, it is really strong, but because it is so later into the game, especially if you think about it too with Death's Breath, this is really more, especially with Israfil, this is more of like a turn like 7 play, because you have to pay 6 to play Death's Breath, but then you need 1 more play point to evolve her and like get the full benefit of like her being a 10-10. So again, it kind of hits that like late game turn 7 where, okay, we got to wrap things up, we got to kill stuff, we got to punch you in the face, like we got to get done. So usually things are more lenient later in the game and get more extreme later in the game to try to wrap things up. And that's why like Gingerbread House was kind of more of an egregious card, because for only 1 play point to get 3 life was just kind of like good early on into the game. There was one more card in case you thought that Death's Breath was okay. There was one more card I was going to show you. I'll have you kind of look at it real quick here, but I'll have you read this guy.
8 play points, Deathbringer. You can pay 1 point to evolve this follower. And you can select an enemy follower on the field, destroy it, deal 2 damage to its leader, and give you your leader +2.
Yep. And then it can evolve for 1, and the I'll kind of summarize it real quick, but the on-evolve basically does the exact same thing where you can select another enemy follower on the field, destroy it, deal 2 to your leader, and heal 2. So between like Deathbringer and Israfil, these more Israfil than Deathbringer. By the time Deathbringer started to come around, Death's Breath was starting to kind of like be power crept out of the game. But I would say between Israfil and Deathbringer, these were kind of like the 2 like ideal cards to play from Death's Breath.
Okay.
So, all right. So now we are moving on to this card, and this is the point where like the cards I will show you will be the cards. There's no more like warm up. We'll just kind of like review them. Yeah. And this one has an Evo. So once you get done reading the base form, just let me know and I can switch over to the Evolve form and let you read him.
All right. So Shenlong, it is 5 points to play. The follower. It does have an evolve. It has ward, and then you draw 2 cards and discard a card. Yep.
Well, when you play it. The F means fanfare, which just basically means when you play it, draw 2, discard a card.
Okay.
And it costs 2 to evolve. And then this is his... Yeah, so a lot of times... I'll just kind of go back here for a second, but a lot of times, like, it only costs 1 to evolve. But in the case of Shenlong, it costs 2 to evolve.
Okay.
So here's his evolve form. Go ahead and read it.
So evolved, you still retain ward, and on evolve, give your leader +5. Yep. I am going to say that is a perfectly okay card. Reason being, going back to its unevolved state, if you would.
Yeah. Yep.
It is 5 player points.
Yep.
and then you have to. It costs the 2 to evolve it. So by the time you're getting to the evolved state, as you mentioned previously, you're getting into later game playing.
Yeah.
Therefore, the stronger cards are going to be prevalent on the table.
Okay, so you think it's okay. Now, in this case, I actually don't have anything for more context because Shenlong just kind of exists as like his own standalone card. But you are wrong. It is limited.
Really?
Yeah. So... And it's funny because literally, like, everything you said, everyone agrees with. It's funny. So Shenlong came out, I believe, in set 1. I have the Glory Finder version, so it doesn't have the BPO one. But I'm like 99% sure this card came out in set 1. In set 1, the power creep was, like, not there. Like, when you would play set 1, it was basically like both you and your opponent would basically be in, like, top deck mode trying to kill each other. Like, they had kind of, like, the mid-game strength cards, but there was really no, like, good finishers or like big blowouts early on, because it's only the first set. Like, they can only print so much stuff in the first set, right? But Shenlong, compared to like anything else they printed, the draw 2, discard a card, and the heal, I think if I remember correctly, I think the heal 5 is ultimately like what kind of like broke this card. Just like, especially early on in set 1, like heal and 5 off a card was just like a lot of value. And literally, like, your whole explanation of like this seems like perfectly reasonable at this point of like the game's life, everyone agrees and is just like, dude, just unlimit this card. Like, this thing will literally do nothing now.
Fair enough. So, I'm glad I'm with the majority on this.
Yeah. So like, it's just kind of funny how early on in the game, yes, like, we understood it was like Shenlong was like too prepped for what it did, and it actually the base form. So the base form was limited. You can run up to 3 of his evolve, but there's no way. So this card is in Dragoncraft. There's no like resurrecting or anything in Dragoncraft where you can like abuse like replaying Shenlong multiple times. So they limited the base form here to 1. And the Evo is 3, if I remember correctly. And if someone's wrong in the chat, like, let me know, or in the comments, let me know. But so yeah, it's funny that I believe they limited the base form to 1, but they kept like the actual problem card at 3, because basically in order to get to the problem card, you have to play more of the base form, which you can't. You can only run 1. So yeah, no, I was curious, like. I was curious from an outsider's perspective, like seeing this and being like, oh, this seems like perfectly reasonable. It's like, we agree, but it's limited. So yeah, a little bit of a twist there. That's why, I mentioned I have the mind games in this in mind of like different cards. So there's a method to my madness. So yeah, on to the next card. Go ahead and read it.
Yep. 3 player points to play. Path to Purgatory. So fast. Draw 3 cards. Deal 3 damage to your leader. At the start of your end phase, if your leader's defense is 6 or less, bury this card. Deal 6 damage to each enemy follower on the field.
Yeah, and I was going to say, just real quick, because you said fast, the F just means fanfare.
Fanfare, I thought it was fast.
Yeah, no, you're fine. And all it means is when you play the card, you do this ability. So you draw 3, and you deal 3 damage to your leader.
Okay, so I would say that this is limited.
Okay.
Because it is a low point buying card, and it right out of the gate deals 3 damage to your leader, which if you're at a low level, those 3 points could effectively take you out of the game almost instantly.
Right. So keep in mind, though, this is turn 3. So by this point, like, your opponent could be already summoning followers and stuff. And then, if you decide to play this, like, you're already killing yourself more to try to draw more cards. So you still think like this card is like good even at 3. Like, keep in mind, you can only play this as of like turn 3 because you need 3 play points.
Yeah. So in my theory and my thought process and my understanding of the game, that if your turn 3, you have 3 play points, you're going to take 3 damage on that. Mm-hmm. I would say, all right, I guess taking a step back,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm misunderstanding a portion of the game. Do you start at like a 20 health
Yep.
points, and then your play points is what increase?
Yeah. Yep. So you start at 20 life.
20 life to begin with. All right, then I'm gonna say then I'm actually gonna change my stance on this. I'm gonna say that it's there's nothing wrong with this card. This is a perfectly easy and usable card to play. I was in my brain. I was thinking the play points and the life points were kind of the synonymous. So
No.
so therefore, yeah, I'm gonna say completely legal, no issue to play.
Okay. Yeah, just to clarify to make sure you understand, it's you pay 3 play points because of the upper left 3, and then when you play the card, you draw 3 and you take 3 life of damage, from the 20. So
yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's kind of the way this game phrases the life is a little weird, because if you see like on the line below, it says at the start of your end phase, if your leader's defense is 6 or less, and that basically means like is if your life is 6 or less, like because your defense is not life, it's your defense. Oh, yeah. It's just a little bit of phrasing, but it's essentially your life, your life points. Okay, so now that you say that you think this card is okay. Yes. I'm going to show you another card for a little more context, okay?
Okay.
Go ahead and read this card.
All right. Lyriel, Archer Throne, 3 play points, deal 2 damage to each enemy leader while this card is on your field. Your leader doesn't take ability damage.
Yep. So just a little bit of context, because I don't believe I mentioned what that small yellow Q means. That's essentially like a quick shorthand way of saying quick. Like you remember on Surefire Bullet, it said quick in yellow. That's just like a way to shorten like how much text space quick takes. Well, ultimately, the tapping her to deal 2 damage to each enemy leader, that's not the point of this card, so don't focus on that too hard. But the main point of this card is, well, obviously it's cost, because everything costs something, and its attack and defense matter to some degree. But basically, while this card is on your field, your leader doesn't take ability damage. Okay, because I don't know if you kind of put the two together, but the damage that Path to Purgatory does to you on Fanfare is ability damage.
Okay.
So, just putting the two pieces together, if you have Lyriel on the board, if you play her on like turn 3, and then you play Path to Purgatory next turn on turn 4, you get to draw 3 cards and you don't deal the 3 damage to your leader.
Okay.
So, giving you that little bit of context, I guess, what do you think of like Path to Purgatory then, with this context of like with Lyriel?
I would still say that it's probably pretty normal play. I mean, it seems like those 2 cards essentially would be a good 1-2 punch early in the game.
Right. And yeah, you are correct. It's basically it's fine. It's never been, neither card has been banned or limited. And I want to say it was set 4 format that this was actually like a pretty good strategy. I'm trying to think. I think it was just like the control deck of the time. There was basically like a handful of cards that would deal damage to yourself, but the idea was you play Lyriel first on turn 3, and back then 5 life on a 3 cost was actually like a decent, like we sometimes joke that it's a good booty, like it's a decent, it's pretty tanky, it has a lot of hit points. So a lot of times she'd survive the turn 3, and then you come back around to your turn, and on turn 4 you could play Path to Purgatory and just like draw 3. And in set 4 the game was still slow enough that like you could have this set as like a late game threat of like, if you're gonna kill me, you gotta like get me from 7 to 0, because if you get me anywhere from 6 to 1, I can activate Path to Purgatory at the end of my turn, and just like essentially 6 damage was like a board wipe at that point to everything.
Gotcha.
But yeah, after, I would say the game's gotten a little too fast now, where something like this just takes too long, and by the time you're setting it up, like your opponent's already kind of like just punching you in the face.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, Path to Purgatory is fine. I don't think it's used in like anything anymore. Yeah, next card.
All right, next card is Sonata of Silence spell. It's 2 player points to play, and you'll have to read that. I'm gonna butcher that.
It's okay. I'll show you the card in a second, anyways. But it's his name is Rulinai, Omen of Silence.
Okay.
So it's like Rulin. How do I say? It's like, well, Rulin.
Ruling Eye.
Yeah.
So it says select a Ruling Eye Omen of Silence in your cemetery, summon it, Necrocharge 10. Each opponent discards a random card.
Yeah, so a little bit of context on Necrocharge, in case you don't remember, but Necrocharge basically just means if you have 10 or more cards in your cemetery it doesn't matter if it's followers, amulets, or spells, the Necrocharge 10 part of the spell activates where your opponent discards a random card.
Okay.
So you could play this for, like, basically it's kind of, a lot of cards have kind of like a early game and a late game mode to them, where like essentially Sonata of Silence early game is you just play Ruin Eye, Omen of Silence, but then later in the game, once you get 10 or more cards in your cemetery, you not only get to summon Ruin Eye, but then you also make your opponent discard a random card from their hand.
Okay.
So I'll show you Ruin Eye in a second, but just as a standalone card with Sonata of Silence, what do you think of this?
Standalone, I would say that there's nothing wrong with it, though I do want to see the Ruin Eye description. Yeah, card description to see if that sways my opinion any. Because out of the gate, if I don't have Ruin Eye in my cemetery, I don't have anything to summon. So being codependent, I would say the card individually is of no issue and it can exist. But I feel like maybe depending on what Ruin Eye's ability, it may or may not be limited.
No, totally fair. Yep, so we'll show Ruin Eye. And just so you know, Ruin Eye does have an evolve form too, so we'll get to that. But here's at least the base form.
So Ruin Eye's costs 3 player points and +1 to evolve the follower. Then it has Necrocharge. That is select an enemy follower that costs 3 play points or less on the field and to destroy it. While this card is on your field, any spell an opponent plays costs 1 more. Okay. And I would assume the evolve portion of this has a little bit more to that ability.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll get to the evolve in a second, but just so you know, just to kind of do a quick rehash, give a little more context. The early on in the game, Necrocharge 10 is kind of like, I'd say at this point, it's more like a mid-game point, having 10 cards in your cemetery. So basically, like early game, you would just play this for 3. It would have that extra tax on spells for 1 more play point. The Necrocharge 10 part wouldn't activate just because you don't have 10 cards in cemetery yet. And then you would pay 1 to evolve it. And then here is the evolve form.
Okay, and on evolve, each opponent discards a random card. While this card is on your field, any spell an opponent plays costs 1 more.
So it still keeps the extra spell tax on it on the evolve form.
So I would say that based off of those 3 cards, that would be a limited run card.
And when you say that, are you talking about Sonata of Silence?
Yes, Sonata of Silence would make it be a limited card due to the fact that if your Ruin Eye is in your cemetery, he only costs 2 player points instead of 3 player points to summon and 3 player points to evolve.
It's still only 1 play point to evolve. So you are correct in the sense of like you pay 2 to summon Ruin Eye, but then it's just 1 play point to evolve him into the evolve form.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is you play 2 and then 1 point to evolve, so making it
3 total.
3 total, yes.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, is it basically because of the 1 play point cheat? Is that essentially what you're thinking is why you think it's limited / banned, or I guess is there anything else that like? Okay, I wasn't sure with all the random discarding if that might like have swayed your opinion or anything.
Nope, I'm basing it strictly off of the one play point cheat, because essentially the way I feel that the discard on Sonata of Silence doesn't stack up, or let me rephrase that so that it's not misunderstood.
Yeah.
It means at that point, if you have Ruin Eye in your cemetery, it's basically not doing anything majorly extra to with that discard. Like that becomes, in my mind, almost null and void. It's who cares about it. Now you have Rule and I, which if you play the extra point, you're already making an opponent discard two or three.
It's basically
cards?
be 2 because of Sonata of Silence, and then when Rule and I evolves, you discard another random card.
Okay, so yeah, but but mainly the early game low point or mid game low point cost to this card is what makes me feel that it's limited.
Okay. And you are incorrect. So Sonata of Silence, how do I describe this? It's a good card. It came out in set 8, as you can see in the bottom left. It says BPO8, and there was a deck. That was, I think it was like pretty much the meta deck, if not like competing for the meta deck. It was called 2 Cost, where basically there were a bunch of good cards that cost 2, and there was a card, I won't show it on here, but there's a card called Crimson Rose Queen that works really well with 2 cost cards. Even though she is not a 2 cost herself, her effects all trigger based off of you playing 2 cost cards. And don't get me wrong, like Sonata of Silence is good, but in set 8, getting to Necrocharge 10 was kind of like, it took a little bit longer than it feels like it should have. It was kind of weird. There was not, if you wanted this to work well, you kind of had to run it in a deck that didn't mill itself too much until like later on in the game. I'd say by like turn like 6 or 7.
Gotcha.
So on average, like the best thing you could do, and keep in mind too, there was like no way to get Rule and I like easily into the cemetery unless you just like literally just played him and just like let him die from playing him the first time. So it was very, very rare to, I mean, even on turn 3, where in theory you could play him for 2 and then evolve him for 1, that was very rare because it was almost impossible to get him into the cemetery that early. So the earliest you would play Rule and I is turn 4, where you pay 3 to play him and then pay 1 to evolve him. And by that point, like, again, Rule and I doesn't make you get any more cards in the cemetery or anything like that. So, you know, the Necrocharge 10, like, it was tough to do early on. There was a card more in the mid to late game that it's called Alter Plane Arbiter. I won't show it up here for the sake of brevity, but he was really kind of like got you up to Necrocharge 10 for Sonata of Silence to actually finally like get the Necrocharge 10 part of him going. But because of how late it was before Sonata of Silence was like actually real, again, it's kind of deceptive because nothing on this says like, oh, this is a late game card, but just based on the card pool and everything, you really only got the most bang for its buck later on in the game when it's like, okay, we need to finish this game. Like, I'm just going to make you discard cards, and in the case of Rule and I, you know, I'm going to pop a 3 play point or less follower on your field as well to try to finish the game. So that's why I brought this card up, because it's very deceptive, just on paper, pun not intended. It's very deceptive where it looks like it's like, dang, like cheating them out for 1 more play point seems real strong, and it is. Like, cheating cards out for less play points is good, don't get me wrong, but by the time Sonata of Silence like finally truly came online, it was late game, and there's just like, we got to finish this game, and it's like no big deal at that point.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so when this card was like shown, like people were like kind of like freaking out. They're like, oh my god, this card's like insane, right? Like this is so stupid. Like, you make your opponent discard a card, you get Rule and I, which on summon pops a 3 play point or less follower, and then you can evolve him and make your opponent discard another card. Like, that's crazy, right? Like, basically like 1 card can like neg your opponent 3 cards.
Yep.
But by that point in the later aspect of the game, it's like, this is fine. Like, we need to move on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's part of the reason why I thought, you know, oh, hey, yeah, you would like, it would be a little OP in certain circumstances.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, a lot of times the devs like will design cards to look good and strong, but based on the context of the other cards in it that are available at the time, like, they know when this card is actually going to become real, and they can work around that, you know? So yeah, it's a little bit of a deceptive card. just being a 2 play point cost card. So, let's see. The next card is this one. You're gonna love this. I know you're not much of a anime person, but the company that does this card game also, I don't know if you've ever heard of the franchise Uma Musume at all. I know you're not too much of an anime guy. Basically, it's a bunch of horse girls. Like you can see, they have like the horse ears. Uma Musume basically means like horse girl in Japanese. Gotcha. Everyone who's watching this video is probably going to be like, how the heck has he not heard of Uma Musume at this point? But I have friends who have lives, surprisingly. So,
all I can say is I dated a horse girl once. I do not recommend.
That's fair.
So yeah, I'll read the card here. For 3 play points, you can summon Anuko Dictus. You did not cover what that symbol was next to the
one, the green.
Yeah, next to the one. So,
for the sake of this, you can essentially ignore that. Okay. You can ignore. It's a little carrot symbol. Basically, the Uma Musume cards, they would instead of evolving, you would race them, and it's the equivalent of evolving, but yeah, it's just kind of like it's a little different than evolving. But for the sake of like evaluating the card, just ignore that first line of race this follower.
Okay, so it does end up being a ward. Yep. And then look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may reveal an amulet or
Uma Musume.
Uma Musume card from among them, and add it to your hand. Put the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order.
Yep, and just only because you like slightly mispronounced the name, it's Ikuno Dictus for the name. I know it's not in your normal vocabulary, so I don't blame you. But just as far as pronouncing it, that's how it goes.
Okay, I'll never get that. So
no, it's totally fair. It's okay.
So is there a card that adds context? Because as of right now, my thought process on this is that I'm leaning towards limited due to the fact that you could have multiple of these, and you could be playing multiple of these fairly early in the game, and you could be looking at the top several cards of your deck, and it could be that strength could stat. Okay, but additionally,
go ahead.
Additionally, my thought process too is being a card that may or may not have way my understanding is came out later, that it may be just like a standard, this is an okay normal card due to the way that the card balance as games get older, basically.
Right. Now, one thing I don't know if you noticed, but I'm just going to throw this out there in case this changes your opinion more one way or the other. If you notice, there's nothing in her fanfare of checking top 3 where she couldn't grab another copy of herself as well. Keep that in mind, because she is an Uma Musume card.
Yes, and that's part of my reasoning of why it was if you had multiples, you
could just keep going.
You could just keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
Which essentially could benefit you early on and later in the game too, depending on how you've built your deck.
Fair. So okay, so your final answer then is you think this is either limited or banned?
Yes.
Okay. Now, not that it matters, but I'm just curious. If you had to choose between limited and banned, what do you think this would be?
I would say limited.
Okay.
Please, before we go for, please, one of the things that I didn't think to ask when you say limited, are you saying limited as in limited number of this card within the deck versus a right out banned card that is you can't have it in your deck?
Right. Okay. So yes, I did forget to mention, give a little bit more detail on that. So when I say limited, so normally if a card is not limited / banned, you can run up to 3 copies of it in the deck.
Okay.
When it's limited, it's basically only set to one. Like you're only allowed to have one in the deck.
Then I would say based off of the ability of this card, I am going to say that it is a limited card.
Okay, and just so you know, and this is not to sway your opinion or anything, but just so you know, there is no cards that are limited to only 2. It is either like they're perfectly fine at 3. You can have them at 1 copy, or you can not have them at all. Just so you know.
Okay. All right.
So in this case, I don't remember if I forgot to mention, but when I was thinking of the limited/ban list, I meant in all periods of the game, not just like right now. And that's totally my bad if I forgot to mention that. But yes, I did mean like at any point was this card ever limited or banned. And you are correct in the sense of this was limited at one point. Currently, it is not limited. It is perfectly fine. But yes, like I want to say I think it was limited even before the set came out. Reason
that's interesting. That's interesting to me in the fact that normally, like if talking in the aspect of say Magic is they don't limit or ban a card outright until they basically see how people are playing the card in abnormal ways that thus makes it like a little bit too powerful.
So, you're correct. Now, the difference with this card game is the game has come out in Japan a year before it came out in English. So the Uma Musume set here, this was the 3rd set ever that came out for the game. And prior to this set 1 and set 2 of like the normal game, so like this is a crossover set, right, with Uma Musume. But the first 1 and 2 sets, there was like basically no cards that had like consistency at all. It was just basically like you literally just had to draw the card and play it.
Yep.
Maybe there was a tiny bit of draw, but it was nothing like super helpful or super consistent, right? So Econodictus was a card that it was just really strong because, well, it had good defense at 4, especially for early on in the game, but there was no other like card in any other archetype other than Uma Musume that had this level of consistency. So they already had the foresight of knowing the format from a year ago. And so before people preemptively buy too many of these, they basically, Cygames, the company, basically said, hey, we know that this card added a lot of consistency to the Uma Musume set, so we're going to preemptively let you know that it's limited to 1, so you don't go hog wild buying too many, and then you go, oh, what the heck, now I have way too many of this card, thanks for making me spend this money pointlessly,
Yeah.
So, yes, so you are correct. I will give you the point, because I believe I did mention, I believe I did forget to mention that at any period of time was any of these cards banned or limited. But yes, it was just really good because at the time it was just a good consistency card. So, there's really nothing more like, there's no like context cards or anything. So, I guess we'll go to the next one. There is, let's see. We do have 3 more left. We'll move on to this one. Go ahead and read it.
Okay. Ancient Protector.
Yep.
3 player points to play. And while this card is on your field, you can't lose the game, and opponents can't win. When your leader's defense becomes 0 or less, bury this card and change your leader's defense to 1.
Yep. So what do you think of this one?
I am going to say that it is a banned card.
What makes you say that?
Due to the fact that it's not just the fact that it is that you can't lose the game.
Okay.
But it's your opponents can't win.
Okay.
So that being said, I think this card would draw out the play time.
Okay.
And in my personal opinion, in a tournament setting, they wouldn't want this card in play due to just time limitations, so that you're not prolonging gameplay.
Okay, that's a fair argument.
Unnecessarily.
I also don't know if you realize while you're reading this card, nothing says you can't have like up to 3 copies of this on the field either. So if your opponent you know, if you have 3 on the board and you hit your opponent down to 0, they just sack 1 and their defense is 1 again, right? Yep. So it's like they could potentially have multiple lives, right?
Yep.
So, okay, so you think this is... You said you think this is banned or limited? I don't remember. I think you said banned.
I think it's banned.
Okay. Now, I don't know. I know you haven't played Magic in a long time, but do you remember the card Platinum Angel from Magic?
I don't remember, no.
Okay. No, it's basically Platinum Angel is essentially it's like a 7-cost 7/7 like angel in Magic that basically has the same thing of like as long as it's on the board, like you can't lose the game and your opponent can't win. Yeah. So I didn't know if like that jogged your memory of like remembering Platinum Angel at all from playing Magic, but I know you weren't like a super crazy Magic player, but yeah, I was just curious. Okay. Nope. So the answer is this is perfectly fine.
Okay then.
The card, I honestly don't even know why this card wouldn't be limited or banned. Like all your arguments are correct in the sense of like nothing you said is wrong. Like you would think like, yes, this would just like extend the game a little bit too long or whatever, and then like the person could have multiple lives and like that could get essentially like really annoying. But like the card, like it's used in the multiplayer format to a decent degree. It's called Glory Finder, but this card itself, it's just like okay, like for 3 play points people would rather just do other things. There's really no hard reason like why it's not banned or limited. It's just a card that exists. Like I think almost everyone just kind of like skipped right over it, to be honest.
That's fair.
Yeah,
in a sense, you know, if you're casually playing, it's really kind of not a very wowza card.
Right.
Like, it's just kind of like, oh, it's there.
Yeah.
But like I said, from a tournament, from somebody that it would be, you know, on the outside looking at a tournament, that's a card that would extend play a lot further than I would want to see it in a tournament setting.
Right. Well, and for context too, I guess maybe one thing that might help is like, sure, it's fine. Like probably if you played at like if you have 1 on the board, it's probably fine because it's just basically like I attempt to kill you, you live with 1. Like worst case, I have to hit you 1 more time, and it's not like the biggest deal. It's not like they're getting like 10 life back or something, right? Like it's not you're breathing a whole new life into the game. The other thing to keep in mind too is when you add more of these to the field, that's less space for other things on your field because you only have up to 5 things on the board. So like sure, in theory you could throw 3 of these down and be like, okay, you got to hit me like essentially 4 times, but it's like you got nothing else going on. You got 2 spaces left to play stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's one of those things that's like people would rather play cards that actually advance you winning instead of you just like not losing, you know? So yeah, no, that's pretty much Ancient Protector. It's pretty standalone. There's like nothing like more like from a different card perspective. Yeah. So this will be the second to last one. Go ahead and read this.
All right, Armor of the Star. 2 play points to play. Select a follower on your field. Give it
1 attack.
Plus 1 attack, plus 2 defense, and aura. Cards with aura can't be selected for enemy spells or abilities.
Yep. So, like, for an example, that Surefire Bullet, very early on, that first spell I showed you where it said, like, select an enemy follower, deal it 3. If something like, if a follower has Armor of the Stars and it has aura, you can't select it with Surefire Bullet.
So, based off of what I'm reading and my basic understanding, and my thought process goes to it is a limited card.
Okay. What makes you think that?
The reason why is it says select a follower on your field. So it is not a follower under a certain number of play points. It is just any follower, and you're giving it that +1, +2, and the aura. So early game, sure, it's fine, you know, to have it out on the field. It helps you in that early game.
Yeah.
I feel like late game, if you have a follower that is relatively powerful already, you're giving it that extra power, and you're preventing your opponent from attacking that already powerful card with the aura. So
just to let you know, give you a little bit more context. I'm not sure if this is what you were thinking, but just to clarify, you can still attack the monster, the follower.
Yep.
Granted, normally followers can only be attacked if they're sideways. So if like, for a little more context, if you just have a follower that you just summon onto the board, normally your opponent cannot just straight up attack it. It has to be sideways. So just letting you know, like if the follower that has Armor of the Stars on it attacked and is now sideways, you know, you could play a card and be like, okay, now my follower can attack the dude with Armor of the Stars and kill it. Just so you know, it is basically just like targeted spells, can't touch it.
Well, I still my thought process and the is still kind of along the same lines. I don't know, you know, in particular to reference a specific card, but say you have late game, you have a follower that is evolved and it's got a we'll say plus 10 attack, plus 8 defense. So now you're plus 11 attack, plus 12 defense, and it can't be targeted
it'd be 10 defense because you said 8 defense initially.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So then with the aura, it can't be selected for spells or abilities protecting that card. So your opponent only has the ability to attack it now, and with its boost from or Armor of the Stars, now that just makes that card a little bit more powerful. That's why I say it's not necessarily a banned card, but I do feel that it is a limited card.
Okay, so that's your final answer. Is you think it's limited / banned, but you're saying more limited. Okay.
Yes.
And you are correct. It is actually, and I'm not deducting points from this, but it will be banned. It has been like officially announced that it will be banned, but it'll be banned in like a couple months. Basically, but still, you are correct. Basically, anytime in the future / anytime in the past, you know, has it been ever banned or limited? Yeah, and you're pretty much dead on. There's basically, so this card is in the Swordcraft class, which is like it's kind of like red in Magic, where it's just like pretty aggro and like you just board summon a bunch of like small weenies and stuff. And there's a few cards that are kind of like the late game bosses of their archetype that you could even like kind of sit on the boss and not even attack with it, which makes it hard to attack into. And then like once you've kind of whittled your opponent down to like almost nothing, you just be like, okay, I attack with my big dude to finally finish you off. And it's just like really annoying that I'm just like, cool, you have this big dude that I literally like can't target and I can't attack because like there's not a lot of cards that are allowed essentially to attack standing followers. So yeah, it kind of, again, like at this point we're about 6 months behind the Japanese format, and they banned this card in Japan a while ago, and they're just, they most recently like announced that it's going to be banned in English within the next like few months. So
gotcha.
Yeah, no, you're pretty much dead on with Armor of the Stars. This card is annoying, especially since most forms of like damage or removal are targeted effects. One thing to keep in mind with Aura is cards that just say like deal X damage to the board, like Path to Purgatory. It said, when you're at 6 or less life, sacrifice it and deal 6 damage to all cards on your opponent's field. Aura does not protect from that because the card is not selecting anything. It is just saying deal the damage to everything. So just a little bit of context, not that it matters or anything, but there's a little bit of like nuance there. All right, and then the last card, it has an evolved form, so I'll show you both, but here is the last card's base form. Okay,
so this card is Deepwood Anomaly. Easy for me to say.
Anomaly. Yeah, you're right.
Anomaly, yes. It is 7 player points to cast or put out on the field. It does have an evolve, and when this follower deals attack damage to an enemy leader, you win the game.
Yep. You good for me to switch over to its evolve form?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Evolved. On evolve, select an enemy follower on the field and put it on the bottom of its owner's deck. When when this follower deals an attack damage to an enemy leader, you win the game.
Yeah, so it retains the win condition there.
I would say, can you go back one again?
Yep.
So I would say my initial thought would be banned.
Okay.
But it's late game. You're 7 out of 10 player points to cast.
Yep.
And while it is powerful, it is a card that keeps the game from running long. It is a card that basically it's ending the game. you win the game. So it's not like you're getting this card at the beginning of the game.
Right.
You've played the game, you've probably gone back and forth a little bit, and at this point you've gotten this card. All right, we're ready to finish this game. For the sake of speed, I am going to say that this card is this card is perfectly fine.
Okay. And yeah, just so you know, in case it makes any difference, which I don't think it will, but literally the only difference between the base form and the evolved form is it gets +2/+2, so it goes from an 8/8 to a 10/10, and you just get to bounce a card on your follower on your opponent's field back to the bottom of the deck. So that's literally it. But yeah, so you are correct in the sense of it is perfectly fine. Now, I'm not counting this towards you because I'm not counting like other formats, but this card actually has a choice restriction in the multiplayer format, but I'm not going to get into that. And I'm not going to count that against you. I'm just talking about standard 1v1, tournament gameplay. But yeah, I mean, you're basically right. It is late game. It's actually a really bad card. It is just like trash. To be honest, the main reason is because by the time you get to turn 7, your opponent's going to have easy options to just usually even have a card that's just destroy a follower on your opponent's field, and it will just literally pop deep wood. Because keep in mind they all have summoning sickness, so when you play this, you still have to wait a turn before you can attack, right? So you play this and you're just I pass, right?
Yeah.
So then your opponent gets to with either 7 or 8 play points, depending on who's going first or second. It's just okay, cool. I will literally have at least probably a few different tools in my arsenal just to easily deal with this.
Yeah.
So yeah, this card is honestly literally trash.
Yeah. So effectively, if you have this card in your deck, you're hoping for a Hail Mary that your opponent basically has nothing else to play by accident.
Yeah, and the other thing too is you're by this point your opponent's probably going to be spamming 3, maybe 4 followers on their field. And so if you just go, I play Deepwood, they're just cool, I'm just going to punch you in the face my next turn. And just beat the game, win the game. So yeah, it's a Hail Mary. There's one deck that can use it to some degree. It's called Hostage Hunters. The idea of Hostage Hunters being almost every other card in your deck tries to make your opponent's followers lose attack, so they basically are 0 and they can't do any damage. But there's not a lot of support for the Hostage Hunter archetype, so it's even that is just it's a nothing burger. It's not at this point in the game's life, it's just nothing. Maybe at one point it was a decent strategy, and I actually have a friend who actually won one tournament game with this card, and all of us were heck yeah, you got him, Deepwood Anomaly did the one thing it was meant to do, right? But it's just a red herring one-off game, it's definitely not the norm.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, you did pretty good. I'd say overall I think you were a little jumpy at the get-go of being a lot of things are really strong, but I feel as we've kind of talked about these cards, I think you've kind of realized the power creep and scope of stuff. As we've kind of talked about things. So
no, you did for never even really watching the game be played.
Yeah, exactly. So no, you did really well, Rex. So yeah, I guess this is pretty much the end, but I guess if you had any questions or anything.
No, I appreciate you having me, and I'm glad this went well, and I hope your viewers actually enjoyed this segment, and that maybe we can do it again.
Yeah, and it was fun like always. I mean, we've known each other for years at this point, so. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody, and hope everyone has a great day. Bye.